Howdy doody everyone, I'm Wambu and I love dogs. They're my favorite animal hands down, and really why shouldn't they be? They're badass and adorable creatures that can sniff out bombs and diseases, hunt wildlife, and even help blind people. Plus they're some of the most companionable and loyal creatures out there. They're called man's best friend for a reason. Of course this isn't to knock on any other animals, they're all great too in their own way, but I've grown up around dogs my whole life, so I'd have naturally formed a closer connection to them. So I figured today I'd combine my favorite animal with my favorite entertainment medium and talk about my top 5 canines in gaming. Now going into this list I do have a couple rules. Number 1, only one character per franchise, just because I want to include as many games as possible on the list. Number 2, I'm going to be judging each character partially based on canine-like traits, so characters who are technically canines but don't actually have many canine-like qualities won't be on the list. And number 3, no Pokemon. As much as I'd love to shower Jolteon in more praise, 2 countdowns in a row would be a little ridiculous. So with that out of the way, let's begin, shall we? When it comes to talking about canines in gaming, it makes sense that you'd at some point land a canine military unit. Now I'm not talking about the type of canine unit that'll ruin your day because for some reason enemy dogs are both more threatening and more competent than enemy people. I'm talking about the type of canine unit that is as threatening and competent as the player. And what better choice than Riley from Call of Duty Ghosts. Despite the fact that Riley is a dog that works under the player's command, the way he's treated in games makes him feel a lot like any human comrade. As you'd expect from a canine military unit, his main use is attacking nearby hostiles, making them blow their cover and leaving them open for the player to dispatch. One would maybe think after hearing that Riley would end up getting himself killed a lot. But in actuality, his AI is far from dumb, and will often take cover from enemy fire. Not only that, but in some sections, the player actually gets to take control of Riley, sneaking around in the bushes and taking out enemies. To many, this is actually one of the best parts of the game. Unfortunately though, Riley only gets to the number 5 spot because he actually gets incapacitated midway through the game, meaning that while he makes a strong impact early on, the player doesn't actually get to experience his badassery for very long.
Let me give you guys a bit of backstory on a dog named Hachiko. Hachiko is an Akita dog from the 1920s whose owner, Professor Ueno, worked at the University of Tokyo. At the end of each workday, the two would greet each other at Shibuya Station. That is, until Professor Ueno died of a brain hemorrhage in 1925. From that point on, every day, for 10 years, Hachiko would visit the station, waiting for his owner's return. Despite that he's been dead for a long time now, the story of Hachiko continues to inspire people today, resulting in books, a film, and of course, a video game character. Enter Koromaru from Persona 3. Now, at first Koromaru just seems like a regular stray dog. That is, until you learn that his owner was a monk at Naganaki Shrine before being killed in a car accident. Similarly to Hachiko in the real-life story, Koromaru regularly visits the site of the accident, walks himself, and even guards his owner's shrine. It's not too long after that you learn that Koromaru is actually pretty damn good at what he does, and to put a short story even shorter, he becomes a member of your party. Now, unfortunately, I can't speak too much on how Koromaru functions in battle because I actually didn't get that far in Persona 3. Part of that might be because I'm dumb, but it could also be because I'm really dumb. What I can talk about, though, is how he develops as a character. Like with most characters in Persona, the player can get the chance to develop friendships with Koromaru. There's a lot of typical dog-like activities like playing with him, grooming him, and walking him, but sometimes you do some activities that actual human friends would do, like go to the movies, get kicked out, and promise to buy the DVD type of friends. All the while, though, Koromaru still retains his strong loyalty to his previous owner, while also being a dedicated companion to the player, and if I had stuck with Persona 3 a little longer, he probably would have made it higher on the list.
If I told you that this next entry had been to the afterlife, and then back to the afterlife, chances are you'd imagine a very stoic and dignified looking creature. Maybe something with lots of power and wisdom. Something other than a loud, yappy Pomeranian. Missile from Ghost Trick Phantom Detective on the surface just seems like your typical annoying, can't-stop-barking dog. Dialogue interactions with him, though, instantly, and I mean instantly, turn him into one of the most endearing and hilarious companions ever. There are some characters in shows or games that people like for being stupid or crazy, but Missile isn't crazy, and in all honesty, isn't even very stupid. He's just remarkably self-aware of the fact that he's not particularly smart. He feels that the only thing he's particularly good at is barking and welcoming people, even if said person is the most suspicious-looking guy on the planet. Also, his dog logic allows him to be totally unfazed, even in the weirdest of occurrences. Miss Camilla can walk around on 2 legs, but I can't do that, so if she can do that, then it's not so strange that you can walk backwards through time. That line made no sense whatsoever, but it makes perfect sense when you realize it's being said by this thing. Make no mistake though, Missile is an unbelievably loyal creature. This little guy dies twice, trying to protect his owners, Lynn and Camilla, and even in death, his very first concern is their well-being. If you know the idea of Ghost Trick fairly well, then you understand that a good chunk of the game is spent going back in time to undo deaths. The first time Missile dies, you undo his death and ultimately keep him and his owners safe. But the second time that chance to help Missile comes around, he actually chooses to stay a ghost. That's right, Missile is such a dedicated companion that he would happily give up his own life if it meant he could keep looking after his owners. He's loyal, he's cute, he's funny, he's an endlessly charming character that's perfectly worthy of being one of my top dogs in gaming. Now we get to the entry that most gamers will likely recognize. All the other canines I've talked about on this list, while they're all great, their experiences with the player only last about 1 game or so. Therefore, when it comes to standing out among the rest, it certainly helps to have a well-known lineage in the gaming world. Such is the case with Dogmeat from the Fallout series. As a lone wanderer exploring the ruins of Washington, D.C., an ally that not only fights alongside you, but helps scavenge for food, ammunition, and weapons is virtually indispensable. It's amazing how much easier survival becomes once Dogmeat is by your side. And it's not like he's an easy companion to lose either. He's ridiculously powerful and will take a ton of punishment before dying, and I mean a ton of punishment. Like, multiple mini-nukes barely does shit to this guy. In fact, he's such a loved companion that most players will reload the game just to find ways to let him live longer. As well as just being a godsend of a companion, I find the relationship between the player and Dogmeat to be actually very interesting. The world of Fallout is fairly lonely, which is something the player and Dogmeat both know firsthand. At the time that you meet him, raiders have killed his original owner, and as such, he's been left all by his lonesome. This makes Dogmeat immediately relatable because in many ways, the player's character has had this same thing happen to him. Depending on the player's choice from there, the two characters help each other survive in the face of serious loss. That's ultimately what makes Dogmeat so effective. The love players have towards him is genuine. The story doesn't staple him to you, you aren't forced to bring him along with you. He comes along when the player themselves befriend him. It's the player that decides whether they want the benefits of having a companion to fight alongside, with the price of having to worry about his survival. And to me, all these factors I've talked about make Dogmeat my favorite canine companion in gaming.
Okay, I'm really gonna be turning some heads here. Yes, my favorite canine in gaming is Chibiterasu from Okami Den. Now, for most people, the obvious number 1 choice is Chibi's mom, Amaterasu, from the first Okami game. Trust me though, as someone who adores Amaterasu, Chibi managed to surprise me in the best way possible. You'd be forgiven for thinking at first sight that Chibi was just some watered-down version of Ami. In fact, in terms of character design, that's pretty much exactly what Chibi is. But their personalities are distinctive enough that I can judge them as 2 related, but different characters. Amaterasu is badass. She's powerful, she's smart, she's a little lazy, but ultimately very responsible. Chibi is a little different though. He's also badass and powerful, he's very playful, he's not all that smart, and he's notably more emotional. Chibiterasu is a weaker character, who struggles with his responsibilities of being a god of the Celestial Brush. As such, he typically needs a partner with him in order to progress through his adventure, and also to read. because Chibiterasu can't do that. Now, these don't sound like points in Chibi's favor, but I honestly find that they're what makes him the more enveloping character on the whole. He's a ridiculously lovable little guy who befriends people really quickly, and being a puppy, he's both reliant on others and also extremely dedicated to them. And that's what makes his motivation so real and believable to me. Companionship is such an ongoing theme throughout Okamiden, and Chibi will put himself through hell and back just to protect the people and the world that we get to see him bond with. You feel the joy he feels when he successfully helps those in need, and you feel the heartbreak and despair he feels when he fails to do so. You get to see him grow stronger physically and mentally, but all the while he still remains a playful and lovable creature. He's strong, he's compelling, he's lovable, he's funny. He shows that heroism knows no age or species, and he's my favorite canine in gaming.